back to the daily grind, and shout out to the full-time patrons. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back bagel biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full time.
MMA.
And now it is time for the UFC 230 DC Daniel Cormier Black Beast Derek Lewis breakdown and predictions. Co-main event's going to be Chris Weidman versus Jacare Souza. We are here. It's going down November 3rd, Saturday, on pay-per-view. Also, there's going to be a lot of good fights at Madison Square Garden. This card's going down in Madison Square Garden. There's going to be a lot of good fights on the early prelims, from all the way from Fight Pass to Fox Sports. If you want to see the UFC 230 Fox Sports and Fight Pass breakdowns, make sure you check out the Full-Time MMA Dojo. Link is in the description. We just got finished breaking down the full fight card. Now let's hop into the main card portion, the pay-per-view portion. We've got Israel Adesanya taking on Derek Brunson, opening up the card. Boy, that's going to be a good fight. Derek Brunson's the number 6 middleweight in the world. Fought a lot of the best middleweights in the world. Taking on the undefeated up-and-comer, number 9th ranked middleweight in the world, Israel, the last style bender, Adesanya. Whew, what a fight we got here, man. Derek Brunson, even though he's the number 6th middleweight in the world, is underrated, man. Earlier in his career, he's got fights with Jacare Souza and Yoel Romero. And in this fight with Yoel Romero, which a lot of people, right, don't fight Yoel Romero until you're a contender. A lot of people, even top contenders, avoid fighting Yoel Romero. Derek Brunson took him on in his 2nd UFC fight, 3rd UFC fight. Got matched up against Yoel Romero. What a fucking tough matchup, right? Yoel Romero, one of the best wrestlers. The Cuban Missile, you know what I'm saying? One of the best wrestlers in the division. But in that fight, Derek Brunson actually took Yoel Romero down 3 times, which is impressive as fuck, considering Yoel Romero's wrestling credentials. Derek Brunson was able to take him down 3 times and was almost en route to a unanimous decision before being knocked out in the 3rd round. So Derek Brunson, underrated. He was on a 4-fight first-round knockout spree before trying to continue that and leapfrog the top 4 of the division. If he could be on a 5-fight first-round knockout spree, if he was able to beat Robert Whittaker with the first-round knockout, he could have potentially skipped a lot of guys en route to a title, and that would be necessary because that division was log-jammed for a little bit. So Derek Brunson got a little overzealous, tried to knock out Robert Whittaker in the 1st round, and the exact opposite ended up happening. Robert Whittaker got the 1st round KO TKO, so that stalled Derek Brunson a little bit in his route to the title shot, but he's still, man, one of the best middleweights in the world. Now, with that being said, respect on Derek Brunson's name, I'm still going to give the edge to Israel Adesanya, although I'm not super confident because all the reasons I just pointed out to you. Derek Brunson's been fighting the best fighters in the world in MMA. Israel Adesanya, he came over from kickboxing. He's for sure, I believe, going to have the striking advantage in this fight. And he's also even got great takedown defense. That's why I'm going to give him the edge, actually. If I felt like Israel Adesanya was just a kickboxer and Derek Brunson could, just utilize his wrestling similar to, how Holly Holm did against Megan Anderson, she just took her down. You know what I'm saying? If I feel like I have this advantage over you, I'll just take you down. If I feel like I can get takedowns, if they're going to come easy to me, I'm going to keep taking you down. Well, takedowns don't come easy against Israel Adesanya. He's actually got great takedown defense as well as superior striking. So, with that being said, I feel like if Derek Brunson's going to win this fight, he's either going to have to knock out the more experienced striker or find a way to take Israel Adesanya down and keep him down, which might be a little easier than taking him down. But you're going to have to do that multiple rounds in a row en route to a unanimous decision. So that would be tough if the fight stays standing. We did see Derek Brunson, eat a head kick KO from Jacare Souza recently. That knocked him out. That's for sure a possibility from Israel Adesanya. So going to be a great fight. Cannot wait for it. I mean, I'm a little more confident than a coin flip, but if Derek Brunson wins this fight, there's no way I'll be surprised. I think he's a little underrated, but I'm picking the style bender, Israel Adesanya, to remain undefeated. So we'll see where that goes. Next, we got Jack Marshman versus Carl Roberson. Jack Marshman is 8-2 in his last 10 fights, only losing to shoeface Antonio Carlos Jr. and Thiago Santos, fighting some experienced guys outside the UFC and beating some decent guys in the UFC. Carl Roberson is dangerous but less experienced, with a couple impressive wins over Ryan Superman Spann and Darren the Dentist Stewart, both first-round finishes, but losing his most recent fight to Cesar Ferreira. This is a tough fight to call for me, but I'm actually going to give the edge to Jack Marshman. Jack Marshman is the more experienced and has fought more experienced opponents throughout his career. And I'm not super confident in this because Roberson is dangerous everywhere. He's beat a couple tough opponents like Ryan Superman Spann. That was a fight where I was watching that episode of the Contender Series, and Ryan Superman Spann, I believe, was fighting at middleweight, 6'5", like very dangerous. And that's a, you know, kind of like Anthony Smith. He was fighting at middleweight, super big dude. And actually, Carl Roberson won that fight via first round KO TKO. He's got a few wins by submission, few wins by knockout, a couple decisions, so he can win this fight anyway. But I feel like Marshman's got more experience. He's actually beat some experienced guys throughout his career, so I think he can win this fight. I do believe Jack Marshman is an underdog in this fight, but hey, I'm going with the vet Jack Marshman, trying to make Welsh history, become the first Welsh fighter, I believe, if he wins this fight, to win in Madison Square Garden. So we'll see if Jack Marshman can get it done against he's pretty new, Carl Roberson. He's had 1 or 2 UFC fights, counting his Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series fight, so, but still dangerous, a dangerous prospect for sure. So that's going to be a fun fight. Someone could for sure go to sleep, whether knockout or submission in that one, so we'll see. Moving on, we got David Branch versus Jared the Killer Gorilla Cannonier. Man, David Branch versus Jacare was going to be a great fight, but we still got a fun one here, although I'm for sure giving the edge to David Branch in this fight. David Branch is 2-1 since returning to the UFC, but he's one of the best middleweight fighters in the world, with wins over Christoph Yoko and Thiago Santos, only losing to Luke Rockhold, and he was riding a 10-fight winning streak before entering the UFC with wins over Lewis Taylor. Other middleweights outside the UFC, he was fighting top guys, man. A lot of the guys that are in the PFL, like Vinny Magalhaes, like David Branch, was fighting legit some of the best fighters not signed by the UFC on that 10-fight winning streak. So legit competition outside the UFC. He's beat some legit guys in the UFC, and meanwhile he's taking on Jared Cannonier, who took this fight on short notice when Jacare was moved into the main event. Jared Cannonier is 1-2 in his last 3 fights, currently riding a 2-fight losing streak to Jan Blachowicz and Dominic Reyes after beating Nick Roerich. But Nick Roerich is not on the level of a David Branch or really any of the guys that they've been fighting. Nick Roerich, decent fighter, but before entering the UFC, wasn't fighting UFC caliber competition, so it's really hard to, you know, put any stock to that win as far as Jared Cannonier beating David Branch in this fight is concerned. So I'm taking David Branch unless Jared Cannonier, I mean, I don't want to say gets lucky, but it's going to take a puncher's or a submission's chance in this fight. David Branch is more experienced, well-rounded, and he's been fighting and beating higher-level competition, so I'm for sure going with David Branch. Next, we got Chris Weidman versus Jacare Souza. Chris Weidman's coming off of a 3rd-round submission to Kelvin Gastelum. It was a win, and it snapped a 3-fight losing streak to Luke Rockhold, Gegard Mousasi, and Yoel Romero. Jacare Souza's coming off of a split decision loss to Kelvin Gastelum that a lot of people felt like he was really close to winning, and especially being in Brazil, you expected Jacare to at least, even if you thought it was a robbery, get the decision. But Gastelum got blessed, and he won the fight, and Gastelum's now going to be potentially, well, actually, yeah, they're already doing the Ultimate Fighter show, so Gastelum's going to be fighting Robert Whittaker next. Well, meanwhile, Jacare was scheduled to face David Branch, but when Luke Rockhold was pulled out of this Weidman fight with injury, Jacare was called to step up and save the co-main event. So now he's going to be taking on Chris Weidman. A little bit of a different fight than what he was preparing for. I'm going to be actually, yeah, giving the edge to Chris Weidman in this fight. I got to give the edge to Weidman. Excuse me, guys. Hiccups. But I got to give the edge to Weidman. He lost his first fight in Madison Square Garden against Yoel Romero, but he looked great against Kelvin Gastelum, who Jacare fought to a split decision. Chris Weidman should be able to keep this fight standing as long as he wants, but if Jacare does start to get the better of him on the feet, Chris Weidman is also capable of taking this fight to the ground, where he would still have to avoid being submitted by Jacare, who's dangerous everywhere. So with that being said, I'm giving the edge to Weidman, but I'm definitely not counting Jacare out. He could win this fight via submission, knockout, or decision, honestly. So we'll see, but I'm giving the edge to Weidman. Moving on to the main event, the double champ Daniel Cormier versus Swiggity Swangin' Biggity Bangin' like I'm turning left, I'm biggity busting a right, Derek the Black Beast Lewis. What a main event. Short notice, both of these guys coming in a little bit injured. Daniel Cormier's hand is banged up. Derek Lewis coming off of a performance at UFC 229 against Alexander Volkov, come from behind, got the clutch gene, call him the Black Mamba, call him the Black Beast, just don't call him an N-word, but you get the point. Derek Lewis come from behind, kind of like Brian Ortega, man. He's got the clutch gene in him, not like LeBron, more like Kobe. Derek Lewis might be down, but he is never out, including in this fight. He's coming in a little banged up, but his back is against the wall and he's got nothing to lose here, and he's a legit heavyweight, and as I said, you can never count him out. Also a fan favorite, so if Derek Lewis wins and does shock the world, I ain't even mad. And that's how it always is with me and guys like Derek Lewis. Like, I love him as a fighter and even as a person. Like I'm a big fan of these guys. Like, they're some of my favorite fighters. So I gotta pick against them because I'm picking who's gonna win the fight. But if they win and I'm wrong, I'm still happy because it's like, all right, my dude won. Let's go. So, but I'm a fan of Daniel Cormier as well. But I'm just saying, I'm never mad if I pick against Derek Lewis and he upsets me. So I'm picking Daniel Cormier to win this fight. He's the double champ. He's the natty goat. I mean, undefeated at heavyweight. Only lost to John Jones, who actually failed a drug test. But the only person he lost to after USADA was John Jones, and John Jones failed that drug test. So as far as USADA is concerned, Daniel Cormier is undefeated in this sport. And even before USADA, you know, Daniel Cormier doesn't use that excuse. Even before USADA, he was undefeated at heavyweight and beating everybody at light heavyweight not named John Jones. Daniel Cormier is definitely one of the greatest fighters of all time, and this is a fight I feel like he took because he at least felt good about the matchup. He's got a lot to risk here. If Daniel Cormier loses this fight, he could lose his Brock Lesnar fight, lose his heavyweight title. He's got a lot to lose in this fight, and that's why he's fighting a guy like Derek Lewis instead of a guy like Stipe Miocic. Derek Lewis is also banged up, so Daniel Cormier is coming in with a little bit of an injured hand. All right, little level playing field. We're both banged up, so that makes it a little even. And it's a little less risky than fighting a 100% healthy Stipe Miocic, and, you know, with everything that's on the line here. So I feel like Cormier is probably comfortable with the matchup in order for him to take this fight, and he's also one of the greatest fighters of all time. So we'll see if Derek Lewis can shock the world once again, but I'm taking Daniel Cormier, the double champ. And with that being said, guys, that is the breakdown of UFC 230, Madison Square Garden, Cormier versus Lewis, double champ versus Black Beast, and Weidman versus Jacare. So with that being said, thank you guys for tuning into this. Share it with your friends if you enjoyed it. Let the full-time family know what you think in the comments. I'm out.
Bye, Felicia.